This discussion explored how emerging technologies can be leveraged to cultivate imagination and push creative boundaries. The group speculated on AI that generates hyper-realistic images and sound installations that transport listeners to different times and places, demonstrating how technology can be used imaginatively. They also discussed the role of exploring ideas outside the norm, or the other side of the garden, in fueling creativity. Overall, the discussion highlighted how imagination and creativity will be crucial in developing and applying innovative technologies. Several participants introduced themselves and their connection to Julian. Marco, a friend of Julian's from Nokia, joins from Helsinki to discuss his plans for an arts institution focused on sound art. Previous work. Philip shares about 2 of his previous sound art installations, including one at a natural history museum allowing visitors to play animal sounds. Discussion of House of Sound. The group discusses the potential of Marco's House of Sound project. Philip suggests sound requires action, providing a reason for listening. Formative audio experiences. Participants discuss listening to Ken Nordine's radio show, Hunting Frogs as Children and Caving. Sustainability of House of Sound. Marco asks for help making the institution sustainable. Philip proposes architecture and visuals are important alongside sound. Wrap up. Drew leaves for an appointment but provides an overview of discussions in Discord for Marco. Marco and Philip continue discussing before ending the call. Question: if there was a topic in the discussion that received the most attention, what was it?
Answer: the topic that received the most attention in the discussion was generative AI and its potential to generate complex images and sound from natural language prompts. The group discussed DALL-E 3, a new AI model, and its ability to generate images. They also discussed generative sound installations that could teleport listeners to different places. Generative AI seemed to be an area of shared interest for the group.
Question: can you describe the discussion in a way that would get the attention of someone who takes futures and strategy work very seriously?
Answer: this discussion explored emerging technologies like generative AI and sound art installations that push the boundaries of human experience. The group speculated on how these technologies could shape the future, from AI that generates hyper-realistic images to sound installations that transport listeners to different times and places. For those interested in strategic foresight, this discussion provides a glimpse into how artists and technologists are imagining innovative uses of AI and sound that could significantly impact various fields.
What are the top 5 takeaways from this discussion?
Answer: 1. Generative AI has the potential to create complex images and sound. 2. Sound art installations can provide transformative experiences. 3. Creativity involves exploring ideas outside of the norm. 4. Listening is an active sense that shapes our understanding of the world. 5. Emerging technologies are pushing the boundaries of human perception and experience.
What's up, Phil?
Greetings, Earthlings. Beautiful day here at Mount Rainier. Morning dew and blue skies.
Where are you staying?
I'm in Bonnie Lake. It's like an hour outside of Seattle, south.
Got it.
In the rural. Where are you?
Nice. Yeah, I'm in Milwaukee.
Sweet. I like the Midwest. Milwaukee's a port town, right?
Yes, it is. There is a port here.
Yeah, I think that's underrated in terms of the future value of Milwaukee's reinvention of itself on the Great Lakes. Great Lakes are amazing.
Yeah, we went and said hello to Lake Michigan this morning on the way to taking the kids to school.
No way. That's awesome. I grew up on Lake Michigan.
Oh, nice.
Up by Sleeping Bear. Have you ever made it up there?
No.
Well worth the trip if you have kids. Just amazing. World's largest moving sand dunes. Kids love sand. What's going on with Julian today?
He's at a thing.
Oh, a thing. Cool. What have you guys been up to lately? What's been the push? I saw the the sheep announcements.
Yeah, that's a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of it. That's what's in that and Green Pages, from what I understand.
Right. Green Pages is close.
What's in the pipeline? Yep.
That's good. I have had about 5% available energy for big thoughts.
That's all right.
Yeah, 5% is enough.
It's,
It's
Do what we
working.
can.
It's perfect.
Hey,
it's Brando.
it's Julian. He likes it.
Hello. It's in his airport gear. Randall's in the airport, so yeah, that's what I understand. Screen Pages is moving really fast. The Android thing is almost coming online. We just got a new strategic creative director for the Future of Fashion magazine.
Oh, no way.
So yeah, Fiona.
That's cool.
So
Oh, yeah.
she's gonna help organize.
That's
Get things moving.
I've been doing some AI fashion stuff. I quite like the experience of that, but I can't tell if it's the girls or the fashion. Usually the case, I guess.
I'm excited for Dolly 3 because
Yeah.
they announced that, and it's going to be integrated with the Chat
The
GPT
plugin.
interface, right?
Yeah, I saw
You
some
know?
of that. What's the promise there? I saw a little promise like the render results were going to be more complicated, and I just didn't understand what they were trying to say. Is there a layer of
The
AI
prompts the prompts can be much more sophisticated and complicated, and in natural language it has more facility for understanding natural language and
so it's not just a
picking out
hodgepodge of
details, right?
tokens. You can actually assemble relationships of material in the
Yeah,
images.
yeah. I was listening to I don't know which was, I forgot what it was. I think it was I forgot which podcast it was, but he was talking
Matt
and
Wolf or somebody.
he saw some examples of it, and it was so it was like it went down to the details of, like, they described like a woman, like there was a busy street with a crowd in Victorian London, and there was a woman arguing with a vendor, and the vendor was in steampunk gear talking on a phone, and like it rendered all of that in composition.
Wow, that is what's missing. I find people asking me for imaginary things now, and I get it's like a roll of the dice. You just hopefully get the combination together that they are asking for. You know, that's
Hi,
good.
Marco.
Randall.
Yeah.
I was saying, greeting Marco. Nice to meet you. I'm guessing you know Julian from Nokia days.
Yes, I'm a very old friend and colleague of Julian's, and I just
Nice.
saw on the Discord that this was starting. I've never been to one. I'm a longtime supporter, but good to see you all,
Very good.
and happy to listen in and contribute as I can.
Yeah, very nice. Well,
Yeah,
this is the one time Julian's not going to make it. He's at a thing. So
No, I understood that, but
yeah.
I thought still I will join. I saw the link coming in, so very good to see you all.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
That's really cool.
it's cool. Yeah, we were just talking about Dolly 3. I'm hoping it's a Midjourney killer, so I could just kill my subscription to Midjourney and
I
just
know,
keep
right?
the one, just keep the one subscription.
I'd
But
rather
it's got a
switch.
lot of promise.
Marco, I'm something of a lurker as well. A longtime friend of Julian's. How do you know him?
Sorry, I heard something in the background, but we're former colleagues at the Nokia Design Studio.
Oh,
So I know him from several rounds, and now quite interested in many of the themes, and also want to support the community. But my work is now in a very different area. I'm curating a large arts festival in Finland, in Helsinki.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And we do a bit of work with generative AI. So our festival identity is done by artist called Kevin A. Bosch, whom you may know, but or not. And so I'm thinking a lot about these themes, but mainly I was just here to check in with the community tonight from Helsinki. So it's here 7:18 p.m.
Well, good
And
evening.
I was
Thanks for
listening
joining.
to many of the podcasts just recently on a traveling back home to Helsinki, and thought it's a good time to recheck in. So happy to meet you all. And how do you all know the community, and why are you here? And Drew, why are you hosting?
Why am I hosting? Because everybody else took a step back and I forgot to. No,
He's the most trustworthy of us all.
yeah, yes. Because I'm already in front of my computer during my workday, so I'm just taking my lunch, and I figured I'd jump in because Julian needed something, so that's why I'm here. I know Julian. I was introduced to the NFL from my colleague here. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and a futurist and esotericist colleague of mine introduced me to the NFL, and then I just it's just my nature to jump into the deep end with both feet. So that's how I ended up here.
I learned about Julian and NFL from Schultz and Webb back in the day, and I've been following ever since. And so once he started putting office hours up as of the beginning of the pandemic, I started joining, and it was a real lifeline to meet like-minded people and to learn about stuff. I work at Apple on the augmented virtual reality spatial computing stuff. I work on what it is that the internet, the web, should look like there. And so it's been really interesting to have and as you probably know from working inside a technology company, there are a tremendous number of people who are just working on making something work rather than imagining what things would be like if you did get them to work. And so it's wonderful to have that context of folks who can just kind of get past like the engineering problems and go like, well, what are the accidents? What are the terrible things? What are the interesting and mundane things that happen as a consequence of this engineering work that could succeed? What would it look like? So really, it's a wonderful community to be part of.
My background is industrial design, and I got to know Julian at the Human Interface Tech Lab back in the early '90s. Went through a lot of VR stuff, and ended up. I'm an artist and a designer, but I had a lot of computing in my background in college days, and got into doing educational exhibits, and then ported that into writing a framework, a real-time interactive kind of multimedia toolkit that grew into the foundation for music visuals, and then a live digital puppetry platform. So I did a lot of professional production in Hollywood and a lot of stage work, and sort of synthesized what VR wasn't at a place at that time where it was accessible, but computing was fast enough to make things that responded and create what I think of as feedback loops, biocybernetic feedback loops, where I'm getting a continuous relationship between the user and the whatever we're producing. And so my environments for puppetry were multimodal, where I brought together the pre-rendering of the images, and then the performance of the improv actor, the performance of the puppeteers for controlling the poses. And so I really got to work through the whole mechanic of how do we create characters, and bringing that, synthesizing that into a real performance in the moment, to sort of elevate everybody's artistry, was what my work was about before I got sick and disabled, burned out. So I've been, in the same way as Brandel, I find this community to be a welcome respite for future thinking. And nowadays, I just sort of live in the future of my own imagination, hallucinate with the AI, and trying to bring things into focus out of my own head. Honestly, I think there's a kind of psychosis we all have from not having time to speak with one another. Private dreams get too elaborate. So I think that's one of the fascinating things about AI is we can exteriorize these ideas so quickly and see them and share them in a way that we've never been able to before. That's what I find fascinating.
I've heard AI is about to get more sober and to stop hallucinating as much. There's that fellow Mustafa. He said that research is showing that one of the emergent properties of these models is the larger they get, the more reliable they can become. Right. So
Yeah,
when they publish larger models, that hallucinations should decrease.
I think that hallucination, my own personal experience there is that as a creative artist and as somebody who's spent literally years feverish in bed, the fever dream of creativity is an essential piece. It's like, what is the wall between sanity and insanity? And if you're a creative person, you have to let the ivy grow over the wall of sanity. You have to come along and trim the wall. But if you don't cultivate things on the other side of the garden, sanity, you're not really creative. Is what I would say. Almost, you're innovative, different.
I don't know, Philip, you know, an artist called Giselle Bien, a choreographer. Do you know?
No, I love dance though.
But she's originally a puppeteer. I don't know, what's the protocol for sharing? Do we share here or on the Discord or the chat?
Anyway.
But I'll share on the chat.
Yeah, we share on the chat, and then there's a office hours. You can post good links and stuff. It tends to, I float stuff in both, whatever you feel like. Cheers, Brando.
And
hey guys, I'll just chime in real quick. Andrew Korf here. I'm kind of lurking as I'm driving to my doctor appointment here in San Francisco. Known Julian for a number of years. I'm kind of come in and out of the office hours, and now finally my Friday mornings are actually blocked. So I hope to participate in a more active way. I'm working on setting up a human-centered design studio with Roche and Genentech. And we're really working right now on storytelling around like how should patients and doctors and everybody involved with the healthcare process be a bit more involved in it. And so if anybody has if anybody has any suggestions or like things we should be thinking about looking at, I'd love to do that, because I'm trying to bring some futurism and a little bit more creative thinking as opposed to some of the not so sexy thinking.
I have so much to say on that topic. So much to say.
Let's connect somehow.
Yeah, I have a super rare syndrome, and so there's no research on it. There's no direct focus on it. It's super pivotal to how our immune system functions. So I have all this insight and knowledge from having to deal with myself. But the disconnect between the Princeton guidelines as a structure of practice, as opposed to the street level problem of doctors knowing those guidelines, following those guidelines, as well as the limits of what insurance will cover, prescribing a whole or territorial map. And the intersection of that space is shrinking. And the process of finding oneself anywhere on that map is really hard, especially if you're a noob to how the system works and to what your conditions are when you're so suffering, especially. So the navigational aspect is what I'm really want. I want a medical concierge caseworker kind of insightful thing that does health tracking, status monitoring. It's very hard for me to track the day-to-day level changes that I know if I was getting a baseline interview, would be apparent. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, this is pretty much exactly like similar to something I'm working on right now for MS patients. It is pretty disorienting, you know. But
I'd love
very
to
cool. We don't need to take over the whole conversation here, but thanks for letting me join you guys.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I'd love to talk about it though. Super interesting problem. Yeah, you can find me on the Discord. Let's hook up there right now.
For sure.
What's your name?
I'm AK-68.
AK-68. I will find you and invite you.
There we go.
AK-68?
I think so, but who knows?
What's your
He's driving, Phil. So
Yeah, sorry, and I'm actually
Right.
running.
Investigate it.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll figure it out, just so we don't take over the whole conversation.
That's what we're here for. Is there?
Yeah.
It's just 4 of us here right now.
That's all I see.
It's all good. So,
Yeah.
Marco, what's your big question?
I think the one, if it relates to this community, I think I'm working on a new arts institution and community to be launched in 3 to 4 years' time in the north of Finland, very north. So this is about 40 minutes north of Oulu, which is a city way up north. So we're talking Arctic Circle here.
Wow.
And the institution is called House of Sound. So it is a new center for sound art and the research on the neurological, social, human, environmental impacts of sound. Place a kind of space for listening.
How nice.
This will be launched in 3-4 years' time, as I said, and I'm just trying to imagine a future of a new arts institution. So it's doable on I will build the facility in the building myself. It's on the grounds of a very beautiful place called Akola, A-K-O-L-A. I can put some things. For some reason, the chat did not allow me to enter, and so I see very little. I
can fix that.
Discord, but this is probably my skills. But now I shared the chat for those that aren't driving. It's on the grounds of a very beautiful farmhouse up north, and it'll be built there. Think of kind of like a new space that drops from the universe, just from outer space onto the facility. There'll be listening rooms. Basically, the idea is really a space for deep listening. Model is more.
Hi. I'm here a little bit later than usual.
Welcome.
All right. Go ahead, Marco. He must have been chatting with somebody.
That sounds amazing, Marco. And is it immediate sound?
Sorry?
Is it recordings or immediate sounds?
Both. So the way I think about it even is, though it's kind of in the middle of fucking nowhere, it's very far away, which is appropriate for a place.
I'm looking here.
Where you need to,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
location.
if you look in the chat, you'll see the surrounding place. It's gorgeous.
Must be
like a very combination of Japanese, almost like a Japanese Aman hotel, but Finnish folk architecture. And so that's the grounds on which it will be built. This building has not been built yet. And the idea is to create a place for sound art that could be, quote unquote, just recordings. But here I mean everything. So it's meant to be, could be, what interests me is that exhibits in sound art can be how to put it, if we're not talking about a sculpture that makes sound, it's basically the space can be reconfigured very quickly. There's no insurance to ship anything. And the idea is to really have a space where we can have concentrated listening, which is rare these days, but valuable when it happens. And I don't mean to, this is an answer to your question. My main question right now is how to build this institution, make it sustainable from an operational point of view. And we already know the opening. The opening will be a night train from Helsinki to Oulu. That's about 6, 7, 8 hours. Each cabin will be done by a different sound artist.
Oh, I see.
It's curated by a well-known curator, and the artists are somewhat well-known. Some Brian Eno is doing one, so I hear, but it's that's not the point. It's more like what is it to imagine a new arts institution that's very remote, takes a while to get to, takes a while to quiet to, because it's a place for listening. And then also the breadth of the programming. So
you're engaging the question I was wondering about, because I was wondering if you were talking about learning to listen to ideas in the room or learning to see but sound. And there's a wonderful book
please.
There's a wonderful book called How to See by Morris Berman. It's an old one, but it sounds to me like you're engaging a question I spent years with the sound visualization and the structure of sound and the ability of ears to hear sound and the way that machines are able to process sound in new ways. So as soon as you get to recording instead of immediate, that's why I was asking. As soon as you get to recording, you're with processing, and then you get things like ambience and and the moods, and it's a fascinating set of questions.
I think the recordings will be one thing. One will be generative installations that are sound only, but on the spot with maybe interactive elements. And the other would be to wormhole to, I just mentioned him in absentia, but the sound of Julian's outside of his home right now. So I think you'll be able to teleport to different places. That'll be important. The sounds of nature are very important.
I have a very good friend, sound engineer friend in Seattle, who mics his entire yard and brings that inside for the rain. And he's a good sound engineer. So you could probably port him. I've done 2 pieces that I want to share with you. One was the world's largest kaleidoscope, digital kaleidoscope in Michigan. And the other was a thing I called swamp music. And swamp music is installed in a natural history museum in the Adirondacks. And it's sounds from the Cornell Sound Library of all of the organisms that live in the region of the museum. It's a natural history museum. And so I took those and using Ableton rearranged them so that you have choruses of frogs that are tuned. So there's a set of keys for frogs, and then you have bass note frogs and high trilling frogs, and you can play a chorus of frogs. And likewise, there's about 40 animals actually from the region. Even though it's a small keyboard, if you press a key several times, it'll roll through different samples and things like that. And so children are able to come to this exhibit and look at this living example of the swamp and the wetland with ducks and the underwater, and it's a living exhibit in the museum that literally falls away to the lake outside. So it's the same surface level, and you can play the keys and make the sound of the swamp yourself. And it's a very successful piece. it ties together the place with that teaching people. I think when you put it on a button, they learn to listen to it. They pick it up faster. And
Thank
then
you.
the world
For a piece, and the other one I want to hear about soon. I don't know if you know a electronic musician called Brad Garton.
I have a terrible memory for names. I'm sorry.
It's not, and I guess the mode here is also to tell of other people. But Brad Garton, he was the Columbia Music Center. Let me type this.
Yeah, a link. Yeah, there we go.
Just the I really like. But he's a wonderful, wonderful person. I was taught by him, but sounds good. And please, I shared my email in the chat, so if you can, awfully old-fashioned, but I'm just recently on none of Meta's or X's platforms, so
Back to old school. Time to do it. I feel you.
I started playing around with stable
monopolize.
audio.
Yeah, please.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say on the music theme, I started playing around with stable audio. So Stability, the AI company,
yeah.
came out with a audio version where you can just put in a natural language prompt and it'll generate audio from it. It's actually does pretty good. Well, it does a pretty good job on like trap beats and like hip hop beats. But like I tried asking it for get some really neat effects. If you ask it to do voice, I don't think it can do voices yet, but you get some really neat things. But it's an interesting to play around with. You can get like 20-45 second loops for free without having to join. It's pretty neat.
I've seen some really interesting fusion. It's almost like if you could imagine somebody saying something simultaneously in English, Swahili, Arabic, and French. What would music be like if you were playing a rhythm that was like that? And I think that's going to be an interesting place where AI is going to have, essentially larger ears, larger vocabulary, everything. So that ability to bring it down via prompt is a new kind of art, I think, too. Very fascinating.
Marco, I changed your permissions so you have access to the office hours chat now, if you want.
Oh yeah, okay.
I don't know what permissions mean, but I will try.
Oh, Julian has a Byzantine method of permissioning people for different channels. Okay. And you
many channels now. Whoa.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm grateful for your Byzantine circumvent. And
the other piece, just to share it, Marco, was the world's largest kaleidoscope was sort of like an obelisk, and you walk beneath it. Where's my bid? And then beneath the obelisk is a cube, an 8-foot empty space that you can walk into, and the obelisk is resting on top of that cube, going up 40 feet. The inside is mirrored, and you have a giant sphere that results. And we took video from around the site that was a beach. And so you have video coming in this giant, just planet of beach, and also bringing faces in. There was sort of a live mixer. There is a live mixer that's changing between 8 channels and recorded sources to make the environment inside. And yeah, there's so much potential, and people need to slow down. I think that's what you're trying to, that's what I get when I listen to you, is teaching people to slow down.
Yeah, I think to Listen, the one thing we get a lot as a reaction to something that has not been built yet, so this is 3-4 years out, is that sound alone will not be enough, so you'll need the other things. The architecture will be very special, so there'll be always the visual element to it. But I think I enjoyed the fact that your the swamp piece was reacting, so you're able to interact with it somehow, but it's not a visual experience. So we'd like the experience to be, but of course, I mean, you're always looking somewhere, you're seeing a space. Senses are off, but
yeah, it begs the question, because to me, what makes sound have such primacy is the sound is the only sense that requires action to occur. All the rest of the senses can operate, in a restful state of passive sensing, where sound means something occurs, and so it turns ahead, and that creates a continuous question if you're not giving some basis for that action. That's how I would frame the problem, because if you give people a reason for the sound, like we're going to go through a liquid bone journey of the skeleton of the galaxy, then now you know what you're listening to, even if you've never heard it before, right? And so just that kind of crazy explanation is maybe enough, in terms of the experience. But here's the other thing I'm wondering. I'm always trying to find new ways to hear, new ways, if the world is always in change, then how can we hear it? And do you know about the black hole gravity wave thing happening to discover that black holes are at acoustic frequencies? So the ripples in space-time made by black hole collisions, there's just been a bunch of recent science in the past 3 months, and they are far louder, far bigger events than we expected. There's far more of them. The noise level that they expected to hear is, substantially higher, and these events are stretching the fabric of space-time itself, so they're not easy to measure. They're only possible to witness them coming at us, but you can't actually measure them. And the whole space-time's wiggling at acoustic frequencies with these ripples that are louder than we thought, and they're distorting the entire space-time as they go through, so there's no way to measure it, right? But I think that is phenomenal, and I want to hear those things. I want to hear them in real time if I could, but I don't think that's possible.
I have a foundational question. Maybe I'll pose it to Marco first. What was your first formative audio only experience?
Caving. Like where I put myself in a place where like just couldn't, the irresistible acoustics of caves.
Yeah.
It's a very organic experience too. Marco, what was your?
I don't know if Andrew has one.
I know.
I don't know.
I thought of another one: hunting frogs at night when I was a kid.
I think for me, it was probably Ken Nordine's Word Jazz. Do y'all remember that from back in the day? Marco, are you familiar with Ken Nordine's audio experiments? I'll put a link.
They're great.
In
Colors,
the chat. He's really cool.
Put the color one in there. How did that? How that let you close your eyes and hear sound, or like what do you like? What? How did that unlock?
That So used to listen to we were lucky enough to get a radio station so I grew up in the country, and we were lucky enough to get a radio station from Madison, Wisconsin that was 90 miles away or something like that. And late night university radio, they brought Ken Nordine on, and just like blew my country boy mind.
Was that Wisconsin Public Radio?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so
it was no, yeah,
local
I think it was
college
a
radio.
facility. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I'm from Minneapolis. So
Oh, very cool.
that stuff is all over. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it was the school, the universities in Madison's college radio station, because they had all kinds of other stuff on there, like they had like a Subgenius hour and just all kinds of crazy free jazz and stuff like that. And it just, when I was able to tune into it, could only tune into it on cloudy days. Like, I don't know if something with the radio waves bouncing on the cornfields and the clouds made it to me, but it didn't already always get there. But yeah, Ken Nordine is he's pretty great. Well, I should probably get back to the job. Phil, do you want to take up the host, or do you guys still want to hang out without me?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. I'm enjoying, but I can go.
Yeah,
so
I can keep it rolling. I actually can participate a little bit more now that I
Cool.
There you go.
got in and out of my radiation zap over at the.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I'll make you a host.
If Drew, before you go, or anyone else,
yeah.
can you describe
Okay.
office hours here?
Office hours is well, it's been going for what, 180 now, 108. I wasn't back in the day, but I think it started with the from what I hear, it started with the pandemic, and just like another, just a place for people in Julian's circle to hang out, and then it was expanded into the Discord. But to explain it, we try to give updates on the projects that are running. For instance, like I'm running the showrunner on the Future of Fashion magazine project. So that's one of the primary reasons for joining, but it's also a gathering of the more dedicated, the more engaged, I guess, right? So we come here and have these great conversations that just kind of ramble all over the place.
And
Try to let
Yeah, I
them
think
work.
I'd concur with
I know-
that. It's just like practitioners actually sharing, hey, what are you doing? What are you working on right now? What's going on? What's interesting in your world? And then talk about like emerging technology. For a while we were talking a lot about crypto and Web3, and all of a sudden that kind of went down the tubes, and now AI is really like part of the focus. But I think it's just sort of having a running conversation with people who are working in futures and futurism and design fiction, talking about what's going on. That's been my experience so far. I've been a little bit out of it for about a year, but it's fun to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Makes sense. And if there's a way, is there a way on Discord? Do you have, like, for the Future of Fashion thing? It's something I'm not in that world, but I follow it, and I know quite a few people that work in it. So I try.
Okay.
So
Cool.
the Discord's arranged by project arenas. There's a section sort of above the line where these are the more active projects, and then there's a sort of below the line where it gets a lot more esoteric and topical and just free form. So there's a little bit of structure in the sidebar as you move down, but there's a future fashion section there on the Discord for you.
Send you an invite.
Just by following the channels,
Yes.
I can kind of get a sense of, I guess it was working towards an artifact. And Drew, I know you need to go, so don't worry about it.
No, that's okay.
But I'll dig in. So
sounds
and
good.
I think otherwise
permissions to it.
getting closer to 8 p.m. So I think I will also slowly close, but very much value seeing you all and having my
Thanks for
first
coming.
office hours.
Yeah,
Very
come
cool.
next time, and
Nice meeting
Julian
you.
will be here.
Yes, for sure.
Cheers.
I will message him and thank you. And if there are any, I think I shared the old school email, but otherwise this Discord will be fine. I will see messages here. So
Very good.
Very good. Take care. Peace, baby.
yeah,
Cheers.
cheers.